Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to FP1. Now we're not too far away now from the start of the 2020 season. It's been a while, but we're nearly there. We are so close now. And I thought now would be a very good time to kind of talk about that championship battle. So the top three teams, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, how we're going to do battle in 2020 with this shortened season. We still don't actually know how many races it's going to be. So that caused me to, I'm not alone. Absolutely privileged today to be joined by fellow F1 YouTuber, Dornie from Dornie F1. Dornie, how are you? How's your lockdown been so far?
Yeah, I'm really good. I got a bit bored in lockdown, so I started a Formula 1 channel. So yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, and I think best way to start, do you want to just talk a little bit about that F1 channel and how you got into it?
So I was just kind of tweeting some things, and then I thought I'd start some blog posts and write a bit, and then decided just to very quickly move on to videos. So yeah, I've just got some blog posts and some videos as well.
Fantastic. And yeah, Dornie has already uploaded her first video, so I'll leave a link to that down in the description below so you can check that out. Make sure you leave her a subscriber as well. But we're going to jump straight into this. I think the best place to start really is, well, Mercedes. They have been dominant since 2014. Hamilton and Bottas again as their lineup. Question is though, can they keep it running? They did look pretty dominant in testing as well. What are you thinking on that one?
I don't think there's any point trying to pretend that they are not going to be amazing this season. Obviously, the driver lineup is very secure. I think as well, something that works is there's definitely a driver number one and a driver number two as well there. And everyone kind of knows their place. So I don't think they're going to have too many new issues and big issues. I think it's going to be fairly plain sailing.
Yeah, and of course, looking at testing, they did seem very quick. Had the DAS system as well, which was a little bit controversial, I think, in a few ways. A few people were like, should we really have that in there? Bottas is a driver I want to bring up because we kind of saw a bit of a surge from him at the start of last year, but as the season went on, especially once he got that contract locked down for this year, did seem to tail off a little bit. Do you think Bottas needs to step up again with the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull maybe getting a little bit closer this year?
I think he definitely will. And there's obviously so much speculation as well about the George Russell stepping up to Merc and what's going to happen there. So I think he will really be ready to absolutely prove a point and show that he is there and he's should be kept there.
Of course, yeah, you mentioned George Russell. He's doing very well in Williams at the moment, and he is that obvious step up to Mercedes. And with someone like Hamilton, who's entering the latter stages of his career now, you know, they are going to start looking to the future. And the question is, if Hamilton were to call it a day, can Bottas really lead that team? We saw him leading Williams, but they weren't really a, team right at the front of the field. They were doing pretty well about 2014, 2015, 2016, but they weren't in the position that Mercedes is in now. So you've got Mika Häkkinen that's come out and he's tipped Valtteri for the title this year, which I find very interesting. Quite a bold prediction. We might get a few more of those bold predictions a little bit later on. But do you think Bottas can mount a serious title challenge? Do you think Mercedes will let him do that?
I don't think he can, personally. I feel like Mercedes might allow them, but I just think Hamilton is so standout, and I think Valtteri will really need to push the entirety of the season and not make a single mistake and really prove it. And I just don't think he's managed to do that in previous years. He starts off really well and then almost just gets a little too comfortable, and Hamilton gets a little bit too warmed up, and then he's miles of points ahead of Bottas by 5, 6, 7 races in. But obviously this season is so different as well, so it's all a bit to play for, I think.
Yeah, and I guess the last one to talk about with Bottas is, let's say he doesn't keep that Mercedes drive, and there have been some rumours flying about. There was one a few weeks ago which suggested that Wolff didn't even want to start contract negotiations. I think that was proven wrong in the end. But if Bottas was let go from Mercedes, is there hope from somewhere else on the F1 grid? Obviously, there are seats opening up all over the field this year with a lot of drivers' contracts running out. Or could this be it for Valtteri?
I don't know. I think hopefully he would find somewhere else. I think there's just so many good drivers at the minute, and the likes of obviously Nico Hülkenberg, it was kind of, everyone was a bit upset when he had to leave, but there's only 20 spaces, only 10 teams, and especially with like the financial or like COVID and how that's impacting money wise, I don't know if there's going to be less teams again still, so it's just so competitive. But I think obviously there is talk of Renault, or even there was like some talk of Red Bull as well for Bottas. So I think he'll still be here in 2021, but I'm just not sure where.
Yeah, I think Renault is a very good option. I forgot about those Red Bull rumours actually, but there were a few kind of murmurings about if Alex Albon maybe can't step up to the plate, and we'll get on to Red Bull a little bit later. Maybe the other place for Bottas, maybe Haas, but you did mention the money situation, and not only are there's the worry of there being less teams on the grid, but will a team be able to, especially a lower down team, be able to afford someone like Bottas, or would they perhaps maybe go for a junior driver? Like say Renault's case, you've got Lundgaard and Zhou, two really good options. Williams, for example, would have someone like Jack Aitken or Dan Ticktum, no matter how much you like Dan or not. And then even Haas have got people like Pietro Fittipaldi in that team. So there are other drivers that can step up that will be maybe not as good as Valtteri, but will cost a hell of a lot less. And in this sort of climate, Bottas really can't afford to lose that Mercedes seat. Just before we move on to Ferrari, I want to kind of link that by talking about Vettel. Obviously, we know Vettel is out of Ferrari. We've known that for a few weeks now. Is there the chance that he could find himself in Mercedes next year? I know it's something that a lot of people would want, but is that really a feasible option?
I personally would love it, I think, as any fan would. But I don't know. Again, it's so hard, and it's so hard to speculate. I don't know. I think a lot of people are saying he's going to take a year out and then come back, but I can't see that. I think... I honestly don't know. I don't know.
I think Vettel, for me, he's the kind of driver that isn't going to take a year out. If he doesn't get a spot next year, then that's it. And again, apparently Bottas has come out and said that Mercedes have said that they're not considering Vettel at all. That's not quite the same as what Toto Wolff's come out with, and he said that we've got to consider Sebastian. Who are you going to believe there? I don't know. That could just be Bottas trying to calm the rumours a little bit, but it's all mind games at the moment in Formula 1, and no one really knows what's going to happen, especially into next year. The whole future of the sport is it was in jeopardy for a time. I think it's kind of been secured a little bit now, but yeah, moving on with Vettel, we'll talk about Ferrari. Now, this is the one that is most interesting to me, because you've got Vettel, who's leaving, and Leclerc, who has been put as this poster boy for the future Ferrari, signed a contract to the end of 2024. That team rivalry is going to be interesting, I think is the best word to kind of describe it. How do you think, could it be explosive, or do you think it'll be fairly lax next year?
I think, again, it's so hard because it's if Ferrari want to back and get that world title with Vettel, or if they just put it all in with the new boy. I think that it won't be explosive. I think Ferrari are probably just going to do what Ferrari are very good at nowadays and not know what their strategy is and muddle up team orders and decide that one team or one driver is a number one and then change their mind. And then I think it'll be a fault within Ferrari that means they don't get the world title. I don't think it'll be a struggle between the drivers as much. And the drivers going against each other. I think it'll be more the team as a whole just not being coherent. Yeah,
I think agreed. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe a couple more clashes like we saw in Brazil. And I'm going to chuck in my first bold prediction here. And I mentioned this on my podcast with Raz earlier. It should have come out earlier this week. But I'm not convinced Vettel will even finish the season with Ferrari.
Ooh, that is some bold prediction.
Yeah, so I'll explain it before I get absolutely roasted in the comments. But I think we could either see a situation where Ferrari do Vettel dirty, and Vettel just gets to the point and does a Kimi with Lotus at the end of 2013, I think it was, where he said, right, I'm just not doing it. Or we could see that rivalry become so explosive that Ferrari, we've got to go damage control here. Let's keep Leclerc happy, and we'll place Vettel with, when I spoke about this with Raz, he was talking about maybe putting Hülkenberg in. I think maybe Giovinazzi is maybe more of a realistic option for the last couple of races. But at the same time, I'm going to back with a second bold prediction, which is completely different, and say that Vettel could mount a title challenge this year. And I think maybe that whole relaxation that he knows, it's his last season with Ferrari, he's just going to give it everything. He's not going to consider team orders at all. and he could even find himself finishing ahead of Leclerc. You never know. Out of those two, what are your views on them?
I think Vettel's like very old school and quite like perfectionist and like a traditional driver in a sense, and I think that he's just a bit too, how am I trying to word this? Like, he doesn't just kind of go for the gap, and he kind of weighs it up and is quite precision based. So I don't see him coming out on top between Leclerc and Sebastian, because I just think that I just don't see it. I just think that Leclerc's kind of young and Ferrari are definitely backing him. Whereas for Vettel, I just think that instead of, like, I was talking about it in my predictions video, so I think consistency is going to prove to be very important this year, and getting the seconds and the thirds in consistently is going to be much better than getting a win and then having a terrible race. And I can just see Vettel maybe really pushing for a win and then having a terrible race and just not having that same level of consistency.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we've seen, especially last year, there was several incidents. Bahrain, where he spun. Obviously, Italy was quite a big one, where he went off at the Ascari chicane and then took out Stroll on his way back. Yep. Yeah, that was I remember watching that and just thinking, oh, Seb, no, why? But he's going to have to definitely get rid of those and really focus on the job. And this is kind of now why I feel that he hasn't got to, I guess, worry about Charles usurping his position at Ferrari, because he's already done it. So maybe Seb could just go and say, right, it's my last season, I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. And I think it could go one of two ways. It could go he spins even more, or we could see a glimpse of the past and we see Sebastian Vettel that we all remember back from the Red Bull days. Now, moving on to Ferrari as a whole, obviously in testing they weren't particularly special, and there were a few rumours back in January that they had an issue in their wind tunnel. Now, a few days ago, it was mentioned that they're going to be bringing their upgraded engine to the first race in Austria, and that's given an extra 15 brake horsepower, which is a fairly big benefit to the team, and especially for an engine that's already kind of getting to the point where it might even be faster than the Mercedes. Do you think that could be what makes the difference here and gets Ferrari up there again?
I think hopefully it would obviously be so good to see good driving and like lots of competition. I know that they've kind of changed it as well. They're a bit slower on the straights this year, but they've put more downforce in. So I don't know if they're just trying to go for a kind of all-round good car, because obviously with the season it's still evolving. So it's kind of hard to know what tracks are going to be on the calendar in a month's time to know if you need like a circuit car or a street car or whatever. So I think hopefully it does help them.
I think if we get to when we get to tracks like Silverstone, since it's a double header there this year, it's that extra downforce is going to really help. Going through those middle sectors, the Maggots, the Beckett's, that kind of corner, it's going to help them be a lot quicker. In Austria, which it's kind of more of a 50-50 circuit, I don't know. And I think Mercedes will have the edge in Austria, but I think Ferrari will kind of bring it back as we move through at least these first 8 races that we know are definitely confirmed in the calendar. Let's finish with Ferrari by talking about Leclerc. We've not spoken about him yet. Obviously, coming into his second season with Ferrari now. He knows what he's doing. He knows the environment. Do you think this could be the year where he properly steps up? We know we saw at the second half of last season, he kind of flipped a switch and he got those 2 wins on the trot in Belgium and Italy. Could we see him take it a step further this year, do you think?
Yeah, I think Leclerc is going to be really good this year. I think he's going to be very consistent and definitely always pushing there and getting it. I don't think he's going to kind of have a lot of mistakes or like incidents. I don't know if he's going to get so many wins. I think he might maybe play it a bit safer and take those guaranteed second and thirds and not quite push as much if he knows he can't get if Hamilton is miles ahead. But I definitely think he is going to be there, and I think he's going to be better than Bottas.
Ooh, okay, interesting. Last team to talk about then is Red Bull. This is another interesting one for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, if we look at their testing performance, they did seem like the second fastest car. They've come up with a slightly different design philosophy this year as well, especially on the front end. They've got a much narrower nose, which I've seen a lot of teams doing as we kind of come to the end of this set of regulations. We've seen the likes of Renault and McLaren go to that now, and obviously Racing or Tracing Point, however you want to put it. But yeah, obviously they've got Verstappen and Albon in the car, and obviously Verstappen very, very quick, again locked down till 2023. Albon's a bit more of an enigma. He's still not got his first podium in Formula 1. Obviously came very close down in Brazil and arguably deserved that podium. What do you think that relationship's going to be like? Can Albon step up to the plate and get even close to Verstappen?
I don't think so. I don't think Albon will get a victory this year. I think he'll definitely get a podium, and there's definitely some good opportunities, but I just don't think that he, like Sebastian, who has a point to prove, or Max or Leclerc, I don't think he's going to go for it, and he will just step back a little bit and not quite push as much, and just going to be sixth and going to be sixth. He won't be worrying about fifth, and he won't kind of be concerned about seventh. I think he will just be there. I definitely think he will have some good races, but I think Max will definitely win the battle between the two of them.
Yeah, you see, for me, I was thinking about this kind of last night, this morning as well. With Red Bull, they've kind of backed themselves into a corner. In that they've got Verstappen, and Verstappen is very, very good. And they've built this car completely around Max Verstappen. And so it's absolutely, tuned to his driving style. Now, the problem with that is you've got a driver like Pierre Gasly that comes in who has a completely different driving style and therefore struggles to kind of adjust to that car. And we saw it very clearly at the start of 2019. Gasly, who went from a pretty stellar first full season in Toro Rosso, went to an absolute laughingstock in a matter of months. And obviously he didn't finish the season with that team, but when he went back to Toro Rosso, he found his feet again. So the issue that Red Bull have is to get, I guess, a good second driver that can match Max, is you need another driver that drives like Max Verstappen. And then you have the issue of, do you want two effective Verstappens in the same team? And, is that going to upset Max? Could you then lose Max for the team? It's quite a difficult situation there on that one. Can Alex, do you think, adjust his driving style to this new Red Bull car? Or could we see him, maybe not this year, but in a couple of years down the line, face a very similar treatment to Gasly?
I don't think so. I think he settled into the car a lot better than Gasly did. Again, as you were saying, in Brazil, he was very, very almost there, and he was consistently scoring good points for the rest of the season. I don't think they've got the 1-2 kind of aspect quite as much as, say, Mercedes. However, I do think maybe next year, with the full season, or definitely the year after, Albon will be getting those victories and will be a lot more evenly paced than Max.
I think he's got to be very careful as well, because you've got drivers, especially in their junior program. I don't think Pierre and Daniel really pose a threat to that main Red Bull seat anymore, not unless one of them is absolutely incredible. I don't feel like Helmut Marko is going to kind of go back on what he said, just knowing what Helmut Marko's like. I think, you've got drivers like Yuri Vips, Sonoda, Jay Handaruva in F2 as well. There's a lot of drivers up there that are going to be making the step up to AlphaTauri probably next year, and it probably won't be too long before we can see them make that step up to Red Bull. And there are some very good talents there. Yuri Vips is very, very quick, and we'll see how he does it in Super Formula this year. Do you think... okay, let me rephrase it this way. What do you think Albon's lifetime at Red Bull is going to be? How long is he going to last?
Oh, I've not even thought about this. So I do think he's got another couple of years there. Obviously, seats come up so all over the place as well, and you need to kind of think about what he's wanting. Obviously, for example, Kimi was at the end of his career and stepped down to one of the lower teams, but even people like Romain Grosjean or Esteban Ocon or like Lance Stroll and that seem quite happy to be in the midfield. So is is Albon happy to be at Red Bull for now, kind of almost knowing that Max is where they're putting their money, but you've got a really good seat here now and it'll open up good opportunities in the future if we do need to kind of shove you sideways?
I think, Albon, realistically, I can't see a situation, unless he comes out and happens to be the next Lewis Hamilton, I can't see a situation where he'll end up at a Ferrari and Mercedes. So Red Bull is probably the best seat he's going to have in his F1 career, unless he does get booted out to, say, a Renault, for example, then Renault come out and do wonders in 2022. As it looks at the moment, I think this is the best Albon's going to be, unless you're Daniel Ricciardo, you don't want to get out of that. So I think if Albon leaves, it won't be on his terms. It will be because you've got another driver stepping up. I think to answer to add my own thoughts to my own question, I'm gonna put him at Red Bull next year, but beyond that, I don't know. And I think for 2022, I wouldn't be surprised if, say, someone like a Vips or a Sonoda or a Deruvla gets up to F1, does very, very well. I could see them moving him up. Because at the end of the day, Albon is still this driver that they ditched. And that still kind of looms over him, and it still isn't... It's not a detrimental effect to the PR of Red Bull, but it is still a little bit of a negative thing that kind of always overshadows his appointment there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Albon performs. I think they should definitely keep him in there, but he's going to be the first driver to be booted out, if that makes sense. If someone like a Vips turns into the next Verstappen or the next Vettel, if that makes sense.
I think the problem with Red Bull and AlphaTauri at the minute is that 3 of their 4 drivers are drivers that they have decided aren't going to be world champions. So now they're just kind of filling up seats, and there's obviously no space for the juniors to come through as well and like make their way up. So again, it is just that lack of seats problem again.
Exactly. So we spoke about the top 3 teams now. Next thing that might be nice to do is basically go through our championship predictions. So we'll start with the drivers. This is basically what you did on your video as well. So if you don't want to see all these full predictions for the 2020 championship, again, that link will be down in the description below. But I think if we start from P6 upwards, because we imagine these guys will end up in the top 6, and we'll kind of go at one at a time. So who would you put in 6th in the championship predictions next year or this year?
So I've already mentioned this. So I'd put Alexander Albon in 6th place, and I think fairly I'd have him kind of by himself in 6th place.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. I'm going to chuck Albon 6th. I think for me, it's just Red Bull going to put everything behind Max. And as I kind of alluded to previously, that car is maybe more to Albon's liking than it was Pierre's, but he won't be able to get the maximum out of it like Verstappen can. So I think he'll still get some good performances, still get the odd podium here and there, but I think he'll still be 6th, and I'm going to agree with you that, again, fairly behind one of the car in P5. Moving on to that, who have you put in 5th place?
Oh, we're going to disagree about this. So I put Seb in 5th place.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, we are going to disagree.
I just think that, obviously, like we've discussed, it could go either way, but I think almost the pressure on him and the kind of Ferrari team orders, strategy, etc. I think it'll just be, he'll definitely have good races. I think he'll get a win, but I think there'll be too many mistakes and it won't be a high level of consistency across for him to get higher than 5th.
Okay, I'm gonna put a different driver in 5th place, and again one that I think is going to cause a bit of controversy here, but I'm going to go with Valtteri Bottas. And for that, I think that the pressure is going to get too much from this year. And especially as Ferrari and Red Bull eke a little bit closer to Mercedes. And I think this big gap is going to allow those two teams to close in. I think if we'd start the season in Australia, I'd put Bottas a lot higher up. But we've had a long time. And yeah, the factory's been in shutdown. But that doesn't mean the teams haven't stopped working. There'll still be people at home working on their computers and producing these parts. They won't be able to necessarily test them. And I still feel like the way we see the performance which we see in Austria will be fairly similar to what we would have got in Australia, but within a couple of rounds, I think the upgrades will be racking onto the cars very, very quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like Bottas, just given the fact that he made a few mistakes last year. I think, Hungary wasn't a particularly great race. Germany, for the whole Mercedes team, wasn't brilliant. I feel like with the pressure mounting maybe more than ever, that, you got a Russell or an Ocon or a Vettel waiting in the background trying to snag that Mercedes seat, I just feel like Bottas is going to buckle. So I'm going to put P5. I think it's going to be very close from P5 to maybe P2, but I'm going to chuck Bottas in P5. With that said then, P4, what have you gone with that one?
So I have put Max in P4, again, for probably similar reasons to Seb. Just definitely be some high points and some good races, but he has calmed down a lot as a driver and isn't quite crash slapping yet anymore. But I just think maybe a little, pushing a little bit too hard in some races is just going to cost him, and that he won't quite make the top 3.
That's a good point. This one for me was very difficult, and between 3rd and 4th for me is going to be very, very close. And even now, I'm looking at what I've written down, I'm going to change it. I'm going to put Leclerc in P4, which sounds wrong because he's an incredible driver and I think he'll have a really good season. But I think given the fact that Ferrari car isn't fantastic yet, Ferrari haven't proven that they've got a title-winning car this year. And what I said earlier about Vettel and the fact that I think this could be his year where he could do effectively a Damon Hill from 96 and come up and do bits. I'm going to put Leclerc there. And I think that's nothing against Leclerc. I don't think he's going to make any mistakes. I just feel like Vettel is going to have that little edge on pace in him this year for his last year in Ferrari and really prove to the team that, they shouldn't have ditched him. And as someone who only really became... I've never really been a Vettel fan. I hated him at Red Bull because I was a massive Webber fan at the time. But I think this... I'm basically trying to say I'm not being biased. I'm trying to back myself up before I get absolutely railed and lose all my subscribers. But, yeah, I'm going to chuck Leclerc in P4. Nothing against Leclerc, just because I think that, that team... Or just that the way the rivalries are going to go... I feel like Vettel might have that little edge here and there, but it's going to be very, very close. I'm talking within 10 points.
Yeah, between 2nd to 4th, you can make an argument, or 2nd to 5th, sorry, you can make an argument for it being absolutely any way around. I genuinely think it's going to be so close, and any one of them could be any of those positions.
Definitely. So we're on to the top 3 now. Things are getting serious. I've kind of alluded to who I've put for 3rd, but do you want to let us know who did you put in 3rd place?
So in 3rd place, I've put Valtteri. I think he is going to be fairly consistent. Obviously, the Mercedes is a really good car. I don't think they're going to have too many issues. So I've put him as 3rd purely because I don't think, of the 2 Mercedes, he's going to be the 2nd one. And I'll explain a bit more when we get onto 2nd.
Okay.
Why I've put them this way. I won't spoil my 2nd place.
So I've kind of alluded to who I've put for 3rd anyway, but I'm going to go with Sebastian Vettel. And I've already kind of spoken about it, but like I said, I feel like he could just have that little edge, and it's going to be very close between him and Leclerc. And even now I'm kind of thinking, what way around should they go? But no, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to say Vettel P3. That's what I'm going to go with. Right, P2.
So for P2, I put Charles. Purely because I think him and Valtteri are going to be quite evenly matched. They're both going to be consistent. They're both going to get a couple wins as well. But I was trying to explain this in my own video as well. I think if Lewis isn't having a good day, then the Ferrari is going to do a bit better and be a bit racier, which lends Charles to be more likely to pick up more points. Whereas if Valtteri wants to get to 1st, he's got to pass the Ferrari and a car which is exactly the same as his. I don't know if that makes any sense in your head, but it does to me.
I get it.
So because of that, I think it'll just be a bit easier for the Ferrari to come out on top.
Okay.
But I could be totally wrong.
So for me, I've gone slightly different. I'm going to put Max Verstappen. Now, my reasoning behind that is I'm going to go back to testing. Obviously, testing isn't the best kind of place to look at for car performance, but Red Bull did look quick. And they've been shouting quite a lot about it, maybe more than previous years as well, that they are going to be close to Mercedes. And I think that, along with the troubles that Ferrari seem to have at the same time, and as well, you've got Red Bull building that car solely around Verstappen. I think Ferrari are a little bit confused as to who they're building that car around. I think they're going to slowly kind of transition to Leclerc, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be a fully a Leclerc car yet. And then meanwhile, Mercedes is obviously a Hamilton car through and through. But I feel like Red Bull, they've really gone with something that's going to suit Verstappen's driving style. And I think he's going to do an effective Alonso and overdrive that car a little bit at times. But still get that P2 for me. I don't think he'll challenge who I've put in P1, which should be pretty obvious by this point. But yeah, that's my view on that one. I think he'll do what he did in 2019, which was basically get podiums consistently. And I didn't realise it until I kind of looked at the kind of rundown of all the results in 2019. But Verstappen was constantly getting up there, constantly getting that P3, P4, P2. Didn't take home many wins. I think he only got a couple of wins that season. But, he was very, very consistent. And that's kind of what got him up to that P2. And I feel like he's going to do that again.
Yeah.
So P1, I think this one we might agree on, but
yeah, we're agreeing on this. I think Lewis will be 7 times. I don't think he's really got too much competition going on with the car he's in, and his mindset is obviously amazing, and he's just going to be so determined and so riled up and just ready to go for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And for me, Hamilton, he seems a lot calmer this year. I know I say that every single year, but I think he's just got that right mindset. He's taken this kind of quarantine period, really focused on himself, and I think he's going to come back and just go for those 7 titles. I know he doesn't talk about, I'm going for I want to beat Schumacher, because he never said that. He said he doesn't care about the records. We all know he cares a little bit about the records at the end of the day.
Yeah.
He can take home. I think he's now in the range of getting Schumacher's win record this year. Obviously, he'll equal 7 titles as well. What will be interesting, and obviously Hamilton hasn't signed a contract yet. That's one thing that needs to be stressed. I wonder if Hamilton will do an effective Rosberg at the end of the year, match Schumacher on titles, and then call it a day out of respect. I wonder if he'll do that. And I mentioned this on another one of the collaborations, but I just don't know. That's probably my 2nd or 3rd bold prediction of the day. But I think if Hamilton wins the championship, he might retire.
I don't think that's that bold. I would have said the same. I was wondering the exact same thing as well, because the contracts, it's all oh yeah, it's all fine, we don't need a contract, it's all written up, it's all agreed, we're fine, we're not worrying about it. I think he might, and as a sign of respect, obviously, and he says he doesn't care about them. I do think Hamilton just goes to the race and he wants to win that race, and he does look at it bigger picture as well. But as you said, he doesn't care says he doesn't care about the all-time number of wins or the all-time whatever. It is very much focused on that individual race. And I think if he can come out and absolutely smash his last season, if it is his last season, we could even be in a position where Seb and Lewis are both walking off together into the sunset. That
would be interesting. Almost quite a poetic end to that rivalry in a way. I don't know. I feel like you could kind of make a film out of that at the end of the day. The last scene of just Seb and Lewis just walking off and going on holiday together. I don't know, but yeah, I think another thing to remember is Rosberg had a contract for 2017. Didn't matter if Hamilton wants to go, he'll go. He doesn't care. So I don't know, and I feel like obviously Ferrari's been locked down, and let's be honest, that's the only other realistic place that Hamilton would have ended up. And even then, is that really realistic? I'm surprised I'm surprised nothing's been confirmed already. To be fair, I feel like once the whole science lockdown at Ferrari was sorted, then what's the point of stressing it anymore? Hamilton, he's not going to go anywhere else. It's Mercedes or nothing. Just get that contract signed. But let's finish off today then we talked about our Drivers' Championship predictions. Now let's look at the Constructors' Championships. I'll start with this one. In 3rd place, I've gone with Ferrari. I've sort of mentioned it earlier, but I'll kind of repeat myself. I feel like, given the fact that they weren't great in testing and they might have had some issues in the wind tunnel, it's going to take them a while to get started. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to the end of the season and Ferrari are either on par or quicker than Red Bull, but I feel like Red Bull are going to come out the gun a little bit quicker, and in a shortened season, that's going to be very, very important. And that's why I've put Ferrari third. What about you? What have you gone with?
Well, I've not done the maths, so I don't know if this is possible, but I would also put Ferrari at third place, again, for the same reasons. I think everyone is kind of focusing on the doubleheader at Austria and thinking that Red Bull are absolutely going to smash it, which I think they will, but I think a little bit too much pressure has been put on that. But I do think they have a good car, and I do think it'll be better than the Ferrari across the whole of the season. So I don't know if it works number-wise having their drivers the way I put them round, but I'd put them third if we're just looking at teams.
I also think Ferrari might throw it away. And again, another slightly bold prediction. I think the difference between P3, or the difference between P2 and P3 will be bigger than the difference between P3 and P4. So whoever finishes fourth, be that a Racing Point or a McLaren or a Renault, I feel like they're going to be closer to Ferrari than Ferrari are to P2. And with P2, I've gone with Red Bull. Again, I kind of alluded to it. I think they're going to come out the gun a bit quicker. And, also Red Bull kind of have this trend of getting a lot quicker in the second half of the season. And I think the main issue that's affected a lot of their championship challenges in recent years is that they've not come out the gun quickly enough. And they've kind of been a little bit slow to start. And then once they've got going, towards the end of last season, they were rapid and they were challenging Mercedes a lot more. But I just feel like they still won't be able to quite touch the top team today. And I'm pretty certain what we all think the top team's going to be. But yeah, that's what I've gone for P2. What about you?
Again, I would say Red Bull. I don't know. So I saw a bit with Nico Rosberg, who was saying that Max and Alex and Charles have been in the sim a lot or doing the virtual stuff. So I don't know if that's going to give them a bit of an edge as well, and just they're used to it and they are almost just going back into it. I don't know if that will play a little part in it. Obviously not much, but maybe just for that first race it will just be a little bit more comfortable than, I know Valtteri has done some stuff in the virtual world, but the likes of the others maybe. I don't know if I'm reading into it too much, however, but Red Bull would be my second place as well.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty obvious what I'm going to say for first, but it's obviously going to be the Haas F1 team. I think they're going to smash it this... No, I'm joking. It's going to be Mercedes. I think, especially given how quick they were in testing and the fact that, they definitely seem to have the fastest car, and obviously, previous years as well. It might sound a little bit boring, but I'm gonna chuck Mercedes in there. I don't think they're going to be the quickest car over the course of the whole season. I think when we get to the end, we could even see a Red Bull or a Ferrari faster than the Mercedes. I think the Mercedes might even slip back a little bit. I don't know on that one. Obviously, it's going to be interesting as well because we know that there's been a bit of a freeze on R&D. So I wonder how that's going to implement things. I've just thought about that now. But yeah, I feel like it's a bit of a safe option. But if I was going to put bets on this, I've got to put Mercedes. I think, they're just in the right place at the moment, and just their overall package is very, very quick. They've also got the engine in-house as well, which helps them quite a lot. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a bit of a runaway in the Constructors' Championship again.
Yeah, I think the same. Unless their steering wheel comes off halfway through a race, I think they're going to be fine. I think their testing their power unit did have a bit of a question mark over reliability. Obviously, Hamilton did cause a red flag, but I don't think it'll kind of continue throughout the year, and they'll get that sorted. If it isn't already sorted, it'll be sorted.
I think that's a very good point, and I think that kind of brings it to a good end. I mean, actually, yeah. One last thing I want to do. I want to ask you for one more bold prediction about the whole 2020 season as a whole. I think it's a little bit of fun. Any sort of bold prediction for this year?
Oh, I don't know. I think my bold prediction is going to be that... What am I trying to think?
I've got to put you on the spot here, sorry.
I know. I'm trying to time fill and I'm not managing. Bold prediction, I think that one of the Mercedes, one of the Racing Points, will get onto the podium.
Interesting.
I don't know how bold that is, but
I think
we'll take it.
Yeah. Okay, which one? That's what I'm going to ask now.
Oh, that's unfair. Can I not be vague? I think. Oh, I'll give it to Checo.
Yeah. To be
We'll
fair,
get him on the podium.
I wouldn't be surprised with that as well. I think with that Mercedes, I think it'll be, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen at the start of the year rather than the end. But if we have a crazy race, and if Austria has been tipped as a bit of a mad one, given the fact that a lot of drivers are coming back, we could see. Yeah, we could just see a little bit of excitement, a few rusty performances here and there, which could let one of those teams make it onto the podium. I can see that happening, actually.
Maybe in Spain. I'll say Spain. There, I've made it bolder.
Okay, I like it. Spain. Right, we'll come back to this video at the Spanish Grand Prix, and we'll see if you're right. But yeah, Dornie, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the on the channel. Of course, all the links to go subscribe to hers will be down in the description below, so make sure you go click that out. What am I saying? Check that out.
Just go there.
We were doing so well. I was doing so well, and I've cocked up at the end. But Dornie's obviously just started YouTube, so let's try and get her up, get her subscriber number up as quickly as possible. Some really good videos on there as well. But yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on, as I said. You got any other lasting thoughts before we finish up?
Oh no more bold predictions, please. No, it's just lovely being here and lovely having a chat with you.
Yeah,
cannot wait for racing to start.
Oh, I think that is the view shared by absolutely everyone in the racing community at the moment. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below what your championship predictions are for the drivers and the constructors world titles in 2020. And yeah, I'll try to get back to as many of you in the comments as I can. It'll be a fun little debate to have. But yeah, hope you have a lovely rest of your week, guys, and I will catch you all in the next one.